adventurers. Welcome to Short Rest Studios Craft and Chat Live. I'm going to continue painting today. It's not nighttime yet. My Headless Horseman from Loot Studios that I've had for a few years now that I printed. One of the first things I ever 3D printed. And if you look too close, you can tell, but hopefully the paint job will be good enough that, it won't matter. So today we're going to finish painting that. I'm doing the stream a little early today because we've got an event tonight, trunk or treat. So I'll be we're decorating our car up and going crazy with that too. So anyway, don't forget to check Short Rest Studios out on YouTube, and got a new video out this week. Came out Thursday night. And if you like this content, please visit patreon.com/shortreststudios and consider supporting us by joining the Adventurers Guild, and or subscribing here on Twitch, or becoming a YouTube member. All right, we're gonna get started. I'm gonna I took some time. I'm gonna pull down my work light here. All that stuff. Let's go. And transition over to the desktop and turn the work light on. All right. So I've had some. So first off, I want to say this. I've had some issues with the Raven here. He broke off a long time ago because I'm pretty sure that I printed this guy with standard resin because I didn't know what the heck I was doing at the time. Printed him with standard resin, and so, it doesn't deal well with thin pieces. So I've tried multiple ways to fix it. If it comes off tonight, I know what I'm going to do to fix it, but I did not want to do it before this broadcast because I'm a little concerned I might break something else. So, and I'd rather not do that. Not that I really care if you guys see me mess up, because you see me mess up all the time. But just because I don't want to have to then deal with that, and I don't think that's what you guys want to watch. You would rather watch me paint it. So, I have put on all the base colors except for the ground on the base. And the reason for that is I've got some mud texture that I'm going to put down there that actually looks wet, and I'm probably going to make use of. I've got some rocks and different things and some leaves and stuff like that, just to kind of give it a little more of a fall, October-y kind of vibe. And so that'll be the first step that we take tonight. But I want to kind of walk you through everything that I did. So you saw me paint the horse's body, and this guy is a centaur, obviously, but you saw me paint the horse's body. Well, I went back and added with violet red. He has some places where he had like little scars, little pock marks, whatever, and I added some of that violet red, dark red colors, those, and I'll blend in some other colors to kind of brighten that up and make it look a little more like, he's wounded. And of course you can see, I think I used the same color, yeah, I did, for the neck stump. Here, I think I'm gonna move in a little bit so you can see a little better. Obviously just use the flat brown on the fence here and the tree. My refractive green, which is a really dark, almost like a military kind of green, on his cape, and a dragon red, which if you watch me paint my red dragon, you saw me use that as the base color. So I'm going to layer up on that and on the cape with some brighter colors to kind of liven things up a little bit. So all of his clothing is either green or dark red. And I did his armor with bronze. Actually, it's a color called Tinny Tin from Vallejo. Right here. It's kind of a bronzy color. And I do have some, I think I have some bronze too, but I'm gonna probably paint in some maybe some dry brush in a little black and in some places, and maybe some other colors to kind of bring out like the filigree on his breastplate and that kind of stuff. I used gunmetal on his little armor claws and the plates on the back of his gloves and all this metal here. And his pumpkin head. Now I think I showed you guys before. I used a pretty bright green. I want to say it was Naga green that I used, this Reaper paint, on the inside of his mouth and his eyes and his nose, because I want those to look, I want those to glow. So I'm going to try to, I don't know if you can hear all that noise, but my wife and daughter are putting together my daughter's new bed frame right now. But I painted that inside of his mouth and eyes and everything with that, and I'm going to kind of add some layers of different colors and try to give him a little bit of glow around those areas. The pumpkin and all the other pumpkins I painted with Parasite Brown. It's an orangey brown, light brown kind of color, so it actually it reads as orange, unless you know it's brown, and then you look at it and go, oh yeah, I can see that. So it reads as orange, but I'm gonna lighten all these up with some different shades of orange. And I'd like to put his head on and show you what it looks like. The problem is I did that once and it scratched the paint, so I don't want to have to repaint his neck again. And of course I just used a flesh tone on his neck. Painted all these nails and things black, painted the bird black, gave him some red eyes. And obviously I've got some work to do on his legs. I'll worry about that later. I won't make you watch that. He's going to be a raven, so I'm going to kind of dry brush him with some blue, maybe with some gray on his feet and on his beak. And he's also got a little, like a tooth strapped around his neck. So, and of course you can see I've got skulls down here on the ground with the pumpkins too. Now his collection of heads. So I'm trying to lift that up a little bit. So I decided to go with some different skin tones because, you know, even though he's the Headless Horseman and he's obviously evil, we don't want him to be racist, right? So I'm going to try some different skin tones, but I'm going to apply some elfic flesh and kind of blend in some colors to make them look more pallid, since they're dead and all. So there we go. I mean, that's pretty much everything I did. So we're going to begin today with this mud texture, and I got a little texture tool that I'm going to use here. I'm probably going to wind up using all of this, and one of the reasons, like you can see that I sort of wasn't real precise. I'm going to adjust my mic a little bit here. I wasn't real precise with my trying to keep my color on the pumpkins there and the skulls and everything, is because I'm just going to slap this mud in there. And kind of make it feel a little like real mud kind of. And actually I may start out with a different tool to spread that on, like maybe this guy. Once I start getting into some of the details, then I can use the smaller one. Actually, the first thing I want to do though, I'm just noticing a little. It's a nice thing about a wet palette here, but I was just noticing I got a little bit of orange on the tree right there, and I just want to cover that up with some brown. So there we go. And what did I do with my paper towel? No, I got one. I got one this time, guys. I actually have a paper towel. If you ever use this kind of stuff, now this right here is Soilworks acrylic paste autumn ground. It's from scale 75, and they make a lot of cool stuff. It's similar to, like, if you use Citadel paints, the technical paints, they give you ground textures and stuff like that. There's a lot of this kind of stuff on the market. I've used up most of this, so yeah. Actually, I think one thing that I am going to do here is there is a rock right here. Man, I hate to do that. I don't know if I want to paint it. You know what? I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna ignore that rock, and I'm gonna use, because I am gonna put some rocks on it. Now the reason I'm doing this first is because it takes a while to. It takes a while to dry, and I kind of just want to. Make sure that we have time to do everything, you know, and hopefully it'll be dry at the end, so maybe I could seal it real quick, because there's a couple things I'd like to do, like when we get to the neck, I kind of want to add a little blood and stuff to make it maybe a little, you know, and have that be more shiny. And the seal that I use is typically a matte finish seal, which is what I like to use on miniatures. So in this case, however, there are just a couple of things that I might like to be glossy. And you see, I'm not spreading this everywhere just yet. And also I don't mind getting it on the horse's hooves, on the pumpkins, on the fence. If it's this muddy, it's going to be everywhere. But I'm not pushing it all the way everywhere I want it to go yet, because I'm going to use the smaller texture tool for that. Might have grabbed too much there. I think I did. Forgot to put my glove on too. And in case you're wondering, I've said this on here before, but I wear a glove when I do this kind of thing. Not because I care about getting the paint on my hands or anything, but because I don't want to rub it off of the miniature, or statue in this case. And wearing the glove protects the paint from the oil of my fingers. But once I seal it, it can be handled as much as you want, basically. All right, I'm going to attempt to wash that off there. That's not working. Okay. That's one thing about this stuff. It is pretty nasty to clean up. It's kind of like, you know, mud. Now I can use this, and this thing's great because it's got a little shovel end and then a little flat end. So like I said, you can get up on the tree, on the pumpkins. I do definitely want to make sure that I cover up the places that I got my paint onto the base. And this, again, nice thing about this, I can just kind of use this to push it around a little bit. To make that look a little more natural. There's a drone flying by outside. How you guys like those Walmart drone deliveries? And the thing about this is, like, it still looks wet when it's set. So I will probably have to like touch it, put my fingers on it or something, just to be able to tell if it's actually dry or not, because it's going to look that way, and I don't know exactly how long it takes it to dry. And because I'm piling up so much of it, which I'm doing on purpose, it'll take a little longer than it might otherwise, because this is not a paint, right? This is a texture paste, as you saw. And I'm going to grab some more of this and push it up in here. And it is mud, and I know you guys can't see this very well, but I'm going to try to show you a little bit when I can. If you can see how that's looking looks like your skulls and everything are just laying up in the mud. And I want to try to get this done quickly. I don't want to go too fast because I don't want to mess anything up, but I want to get this done quickly so I can move on to finishing up the figure. Try and get a little bit in there. And like I said, like, I'm perfectly happy with just going nuts and being messy with this and splattering it on his hooves in places where, you know, because that's what's going to happen, right? If this dude is really stomping around in the mud out there, he's going to be very messy. And chances are there will be mud all over everything. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Right around here, just trying to get these edges filled in properly. I will do that once in a while. Don't be afraid to use your fingers if you need to. I'm going to get this everywhere I want it, and then I might just try to clean it up a little bit. Because there are a couple of places I have it that it's okay, but I don't necessarily want it there. Now, one of the things you can do with this, like, if I were just doing this for myself, if it were just me, like if I did not have you guys watching me, I would probably do this last, and then I would just drop some of my landscaping elements like weeds and leaves, rocks into this paste. And I might do a few, but for the most part I think I won't, because I don't want them to get in the way of the painting of everything else. But if I were doing it the way I normally would do this kind of thing, I would do that. I would do this last, and add those guys as I'm doing it. That's a little tricky getting it over here. And then, I mean, one of the nice things about this base is, a lot of the 3D printed bases that come with figures and that kind of thing are going to be already textured. And that is nice about this, because if if you're not like me and you don't have this random weird stuff laying around and you just have paint and you just want to paint it, you can, and it'll still look like the ground. And it's cool. They're nice. I just really wanted to have the wet, muddy texture going on here. And I'll get it all the way up here on the roots and stuff. You really don't have to have a lot of this on here. I just kind of like to put it on thick, because you can give it a little, you can kind of work it and give it peaks and valleys and stuff, and they're not going to stay like, I don't know if you can see that, that's really sticking up. I've created quite a peak there. It's not going to stay like that. It will drop some, but it'll still have a little bit of texture to it there. I really like this stuff. It's fun. Let's get some. Come on. If I would remember to switch to the other side, I could probably push it around the way that I want to. That definitely works better. You guys probably can't see it, but every time I flip the thing around, I get mud texture on my fingers. It's already starting to dry up here. And I'm really just trying to get it off of the base, the edges of the base, because it has texture. But I will paint the edges of the base black. It's already black, but that's the primer, and I'll finish it with some real black paint. Make sure I don't have anything on my glove that's going to get somewhere I don't want it. Okay. We have just a little bit more of this to go. Oop. And this is one of the tricky spots. But as I said, I'm okay with getting mud on his hooves and up on the pumpkins. You know, that's kind of a realistic portrayal of what will probably happen here. The difficult part is actually making sure that everything I want covered is covered. Yeah, there's still a gap right there. And like I said, I'm okay getting, you know, mud in all kinds of random places here, but I'm trying to control it a little bit. Because I don't want to cover everything up. And I want to go back through here and do this kind of thing because I want the ground to look trampled. So I'm trying to just mash it around. Sorry, I'm getting out of camera view here. Just trying to... Okay. So I think I've got everything around there that I wanted. Push some of this over here. Now I gotta kind of finish up this bit of edge right here. And one part that's going to be a little bit tricky is that I have to keep this in mind that all this stuff is on here when I'm maneuvering the model to paint different areas, because otherwise I'll just stick my hand in it. Eventually it'll dry and it won't matter. It's going to take a little while. Especially given as much of it as I'm caking on here, which I'm kind of like, if you don't do that, then what's the point? Where's the fun? And the fun thing about this is, like, what it looks like right now is pretty much what it's going to look like when it's dry. So... Well, I hope everybody's enjoying the stream so far today. We're almost done with this portion. And then we'll get to finishing up the actual Headless Horseman effect. I think that's going to look really freaking cool. And I think what I'm going to do right now too is first of all wipe this thing off. wash it off in a bit. Get this stuff off of my other hand. It really doesn't take too long to dry. It's just that I do have a tendency to put a lot of it on because I just love the way it gunks things up. All right, so I was about to say that I was going to do something. So what's everybody's plans for Halloween? We're decorating my truck up to look like a pirate ship. And I don't really have a costume, but I'm decorating my truck up like a pirate ship. So grab that other paper towel because I will need that. Okay. Probably not going to need that brush today. All right. I'm going to begin. So you can see I've got a lot of colors going on here, and I've been using it like this for a while, and I really wanted to replace the sheet in my wet palette before tonight, but I kind of ran out of time. I was going to do it this afternoon. I had some other things I needed to do, so I didn't. But I'm noticing spot here. But what there we go. But it's okay. I can deal. So I'm gonna go ahead because this is one of the parts I'm looking forward to the most. Do I want that one? No. So I did underneath. Actually, I am going to use this here. The base coat. Whoa, that just came right out of there. The base coat on my pumpkin head here, as I said before, is a parasite brown. And so that's what's going to kind of be down in the something sort of in between here because my Vallejo model color orange is much redder than game color. What's it called? The game color orange fire, and then this is clear orange, the model color. That's much redder than the orange fire, so I'm kind of mixing them together a little bit just to give me something in between. And that's what I'm going to kind of paint on here. Just leaving the kind of staying out of the grooves with it. And you could dry brush this too. I just really wanted to come in and kind of actually paint it, and I still, because oranges and yellows and reds tend to be kind of translucent. I may have to come back and hit this with a second coat. See, now he's already starting to look a little more fun there. But I'm trying to stay out of those grooves to kind of preserve that kind of the point of it. And I'm not dry brushing it, but I do have a very small amount of paint on the brush. I'm gonna get some on the ferrule, which I know it's just terrible, And move him over because I think I just splashed a little bit of water on him. All right, we'll get a little bit more of that. Okay. And if you look real closely at this, you can see some of the terrible layer lines and stuff, which you don't usually get from a resin printer, but like I said, I didn't know what I was doing with this guy, and it was it's a big print. It's a big print, and I didn't know what I was doing, so I think it kind of weighed itself down a good bit and caused some of these artifacts. Okay, I'll put a black right there. Probably from when I put the head on and I scraped the paint on his neck. I think it had a similar effect on the pumpkin. Okay. I'm really trying to be fairly controlled with this, but at the same time, I'm just using a very little amount of paint and just trying to. The main thing is just trying to preserve. You're giving it some heat and preserving those low lights with the brown. And this is obviously my mid-tone, and I'll use the orange fire kind of as my highlight color, because this it's definitely looking more like a pumpkin now, although it's looked like one before. Like I said, that parasite brown really reads orange by itself. When you start putting this bright orange on it, you begin to see it has a little more of a caramel ring to it. But what the heck? I was catching my glove. Get far enough in here. I don't know, maybe I won't do a second coat of this. Can't decide. I'm kind of okay with the parasite brown showing through a little, And there's some really nice little details on this guy too, like that little sort of chip in his lip there. And I like that his teeth aren't all even triangles like your old school jack-o'-lantern, but still similar. a second coat of this one. I think what I want to do now is move on to the bright orange. And so my idea here is 45-degree angle from the front. And really and truly his head kind of goes on at an angle, so it would really be like this. Kind of like this. So the light would be striking right here. So the brightest point I'm also going to kind of hit some of his little pumpkin warts there too. And I want to get that's a little too much paint. It's okay. So these are going to be the brightest points. I'm kind of trying to focus on this side, and I will do some other highlights too. On the other side, but I want to focus the bulk of my highlights over here. And I'm just trying to use really light brush strokes. And just apply a little bit of color here. Alright, so you can see he's kind of highlighted a little more on that left side. You want to add a little bit more right here. I think I need a little more paint too. I just want to add that. Just brighten that one up just a tad. Maybe get that right there. And a little bit there. I think that's pretty good, but I think I'm also going to apply just a little bit to some of these little bumps and things he's got over here. just to highlight them a little. Make them a little more pronounced. Because they're just a fun little detail. And to be honest, after I do this, I may as well, I guess, paint the pumpkins on the ground, huh? I might just be doing pumpkins today, guys. I guess that's appropriate for Halloween. All right. Just trying to get right under the camera here so you can kind of... Yeah, I think it looks pretty cool, man. All right. Thing is, I don't think I want to mess with those pumpkins yet because that paint's still drying. So we'll come back to those. But we are going to take a little bit of this refractive green. So these are my greens here that I'm going to use on this cape. I'm not going to go too bright. And obviously the brightest highlights are going to be on this side over here on the front. But now I can't find my refractive green. So, all right, so this is refractive green, which is the dark kind of tank green, and then I've got flat green, which is just a basic green, and there's nothing, it's not super saturated. It's a very basic green color, and there's goblin green, which is a bit brighter, a bit more saturated. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with a mixture of refractive green and flat green. And I'm going to do like a four level kind of blend here. I'm going to mix these together to get my first mid-tone. I think I might, it's not mixing together, it's kind of just swirling. Okay, I think I might want to add a little more of my refractive green to that. That's a little bit, it was a little bit brighter than I wanted. Okay, all right, there we go. That looks like more halfway between the two. So clean that up. Probably shouldn't actually mix that with my good brushes, but I always do. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit of this water in here. Just thin it out a bit. Make sure I don't have any wet paint on my glove. And we're going to start working on some of the high spots on his cape. So I'm going to start, let's see. So I'm holding him up under the light. This is where we want to see that first sort of real highlight. And I can kind of paint this whole area of the cape with it. highest of these high points is going to be, of course, the brightest of our colors. Okay. Like that area is probably going to have the most highlight, but one thing I need to do here, I am going to apply a lot more of this color than the other highlights. So like for instance, this sort of wrinkle here is probably, it might get a more of a highlight than that. So it's funny in this case because this is going to be the most, like this is where the most highlights will be right there, but then right under it is, you know, this is part of the cape I'm trying to keep a little darker because it's kind of in shadow, right? When I do this, I want to make sure I get down, because I didn't do this. I didn't assemble this guy very well because I assembled it a long time ago. When I do this, I want to kind of make sure that I get this color down in the groove where the cape was glued together, so that it doesn't bring that groove out too much. So you can kind of see that's a little more highlighted there. You got that mid-tone going on. Now over here, most of the highlight's going to be on the edge of the cape. Like that's going to be the most highlighted portion, literally. I'm going to have to basically do like a little edge highlight with my bright green. In a bit, but right now just want to get this area. And I'm going to do all this on the back too. The difference is going to be that I'm not going to go as bright with the highlights on the back. I might go up one more level, you know. Get this right here. This is a little tricky to get to. Make sure I get on that inside part too. And you can see when this is drying, it actually looks much closer to the original color. A little more color, a little more paint. So I'm going to move around to the back now. And basically with this color, I want to get on these ripples, wrinkles in the cape. I want to use this on everything but the lowest areas. So just right down, everything except for right down in the middle, in the valleys between those ripples in his cape. So yes, I'm hitting the high points, but I will get down into the low areas, just not all the way down. So I need a little more, I think yeah, there we go. Oh, shoot. Okay, I got too much paint. There we go. And I can use this opportunity to cover up some slight mistakes I made with the bronze, and I just painted on the armor there. That's okay. You can always cover that up later. It's looking all right. I actually really like painting capes. It's kind of one of my favorite aspects of painting miniatures. Because I feel like in a lot of ways, they are an easier way to do some of the coolest things in mini painting, like blending and layering, all of that. And I am kind of drawing in here on my larger, on the highest points of the ripples, just because I want to make sure that I just want to give myself a boundary before I really get started on it. Let's see, this one right here, like I think this needs to be like this with this guy. And yes, like you could totally dry brush this and it would be perfectly fine. It would be cool. But it does come out a lot cleaner looking, typically, when you do it this way. You'll notice sometimes I fumble around a bit trying to find the right hand position, finding somewhere to put my finger. Or another part of my hand to kind of brace myself. Because, I mean, that's how you get good brush control. You gotta just make sure you can keep your hand as steady as possible. And nobody everybody has super steady hands. I think we all need to brace our hands to get. Yeah, it's okay. I'll just have to touch out that bronze a little bit. And you can see how that's already starting to really capture some of that definition that you want to see. It's looking good. And again, I want to do this everywhere, but I'm not gonna do the brightest highlights except in the areas where I've decided the light's gonna hit it the most directly, which are those areas in the front. I've had this thing sitting in a cabinet for a couple of years and keep saying I'm going to paint it. My wife, much to my surprise, has even said she would put it out as a decoration. For Halloween. Okay, I think I got most of that. I think that's already looking really cool, man. So I gotta get some of this area here. And I need to do these too. Finish that little ridge and come down here. Because I want this mid-tone to extend further down. Of course, we do want to highlight around that upper edge. I'm not going to worry about going too much behind the armor there because the light won't be reaching that area as well anyway. really and truly your mid-tone. I did it again. Your mid-tone is kind of what color the figure is going to read as, you know. Because see, now it's starting to look like a little more of a vibrant green. A little more. A little more. Not a whole lot. I had a moment, I'm not gonna lie, kind of went over it right there, but I feel like I had a spot that was still black that shouldn't have been. I had a moment where I regretted going with the green and red, but I think it works. It's kind of a rustic looking color scheme. Try and get a little more of this around here just to bring out the sort of irregular shape of his collar, whatever you want to call that. Okay. Get a little bit on here. I don't worry too much about the backside of it, but the front will be more lit, so it'll be highlighted. Okay, once again, I never actually finish this part. This is what happens to me a lot. Like I kind of get, like I have a plan in mind and then I get sidetracked. And I keep painting the same thing, but I just go off in a different direction than I originally intended to. So and I figured out that, you know, if you've been painting like on your own, just trying to figure things out, you may not have realized that the trick with blending is really about, I think, you know, just for me saying this as a non-expert painter, is really about finding the right colors. And taking your time to combine them in the right way. Because like we're going to take a few steps here to do this. And it's going to take some time. We could just do a base color and a highlight. You can do that and kind of get away with it. You could also do sort of almost like a slap chop method where you do a very stark, highly contrasting base color and highlight, and then wash it with something in the same color family that you want it to be, or even just, you know, do your base and highlight in black and white, and then with, say, a green contrast paint or ink over it. Which is kind of what we did with the horse, but black is really difficult. Get some more of this up in this area. But you're still going to see kind of, I mean, and that will help to bring those colors together. It absolutely will. But what you're still going to see is kind of they don't blend as well as you want them to, because they're very, very different from each other. I'm gonna hit this one. I'm not gonna hit that back one though. Gosh, it's already after 4, guys. Hey, let me know if you're chatting. If you haven't jumped in the chat yet, you're watching. Let me know if you would like to see me continue this guy next week. I'm going to try to get him finished enough at some point to put him out as a decoration. Man, I just filled that hole. I think I got my paint too thin. But I did want to. Wanted to try to get it done enough to display it, but rinse that out. See if I can get some of that paint out of that hole. Yeah, I think I just thinned it too much and then left too much of it on the brush. Like these areas, like these guys are just going to be pretty well green, the lighter color. So. Anyway, the trick with the blending is getting the colors right, getting the colors close enough together that as you go smaller and smaller with each layer, they don't look like you can't, it's harder to visually separate them. Like, I genuinely kind of think that's the trick, and that's the way it should work, right? The cape is looking pretty good. I want to try to just get around here enough to cover up some of that. A little bit of bone white. Try to do this without getting it on the skull too much. looking good so far. I'm gonna continue on. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is just straight up flat green here, which is what I used to paint the leaf and the stem on top of my little pumpkin head. So now I'm going to do a smaller highlight with this. Okay, we're going to start in the same area. And this is really going to start giving some flavor, you know what I mean? Let's see if I can't try to get to this ripple here. And as far as I'm concerned, in the back areas here, this is my highlight. This is the top. I'm not going any brighter than this inside there, right? I will, just found a little red spot on the green. I will go brighter on the outer parts. That are meant to be highlighted. But not in those inside parts of the cape, because I want to keep that dark. I kind of want to make sure I get these edges though, and the like rips and tears. This is looking pretty awesome. That's what I love about painting, man. It's like you get going and then you start to see things come together, and it just feels such a sense of accomplishment. And I think you can have that even if you're not the most skilled painter in the world, which I certainly am not by any stretch of the imagination. I'm only recently really starting to get some competence in blending, really. Put a little more on this. And I'm really here doing this just to hang out with you guys and, you know, have an excuse to hang out with y'all, create some content, and do something I enjoy doing. Okay. Okay. Just going to hit a little bit more of that there. And on the back here, this is probably going to be like the inside of the front, this is probably going to be my biggest highlight, my highest highlight, because I don't want it to be as bright as the front, but I do still want to see these sort of changes in color, you know. And so now I'm really just hitting the high points on the back of the cape. Like the areas that are the most visible. And so we'll have the most light. And when I get to my goblin green, that's only going to be on the front that I'm going to use that as a highlight. See, looking cool. Looking cool. Just takes me a while. So I'll ask again if you have plans for Halloween. Hey, if you're just hanging out and watching while you work, that's cool too. But I'd love to talk about your Halloween plans, your next game of D&D or whatever your TTRPG of choice is. I've been running with my... I'm running a 5e game. And we will be playing this week. And it just turned out that the adventure we're on got to a point where they're going to be entering a tomb with ghosts and zombies and the like. So that works out for Halloween week. And I'm going to go ahead and do this side, and then I'm going to come back to the middle. And then I have another group a group of friends that it's one of those groups of friends that we have a kind of a hard time getting our schedule together because we're all, we all have a lot of stuff going on, and I just stuck my finger in the mud, but I think it's all right. Yeah, we just have a lot going on, so, and we've been running a DCC game, but I think some of them, I think some of these folks aren't really excited about the brutality of Dungeon Crawl Classics, so we're gonna switch over, I think, to Nimble. Which, if you're not familiar with Nimble, you should really check it out. I've done a couple of videos on it on my YouTube channel, and it's a really cool system. Kind of a streamlined 5e, but also it's quite different. It sort of began life as a streamlined set of 5e house rules. And that still exists. Like, you can still get that sort of streamlined set of rules, but this is legitimately now its own system, and it has exploding damage dice, which is loads of fun. It has basically, you roll a single die. You only roll your damage die. Now, at some point, your damage goes up to multiple dice. And in that case, you're using multiple dice, but you just roll your damage die. You don't roll a d20 first. So you only roll your damage die. You only miss if you get a 1. Anytime you roll the max on your damage die, that is considered a crit, and you roll the damage die again. And you can just keep doing that forever. And that's exploding damage dice. And that can be a lot of fun. And I think this group of players, I love sort of the wackiness and the unexpected swingy nature of Dungeon Crawl Classics, but I know it's not for everybody, and I think this group of people might just enjoy it more if they had something that was, they want to spend some time with their character and kill some monsters, and maybe aren't as big of fans of the constant threat of death as their game master is. Okay, I think that's the whole bag of the cape there. So I just need to get up to the collar area now. Like I said, with this color, this is the highlight on the back, right? So that's why I'm not spreading it out any more than I am. And I'm going to use it as, just hit the edges of this with it right here, rather than trying to get down in that recess any. The light in this case is coming from the front. And I like painting capes. It just is really satisfying for me. Pretty cool, man. Looks good. All right, let's see. I'm gonna hit top of this, and once again, I hit the armor. Yeah, I'm going to have to touch up his armor a little bit up there. That's okay. That's just part of it. All right. Kind of want to do a little more of this back here. Not a ton, but just a little more. Okay, and once we get to the front here, we're going to do a little bit more of this color than we've been doing on the back. Again, because this is more of a mid-tone, right? But I'm definitely going to go all the way around here. And like so. In this area right here, there's not going to be a ton of places this color is going to hit. Beside the edges anyway, so get over here. Kind of make sure I get some color up in there. That's looking pretty sharp. I am, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that so far. A little too much paint on there. Gonna get this little. And once again, I'm gonna have to fix that little silver guy right there. And a little bit of this on the back. And I think I need a little more to get it on the front. Okay. I did the edges there, but I did not do anything on the inside. And I don't want to do too much there. I do think I want a little more of this on here. Yeah. All right. I think I'm done with that color. As I dunk him in the water. He's looking good so far. Cape's looking sharp. All right, now we're going to move on to our Goblin Green, which again is a lighter shade. Not as bright as, say, Naga, and not as vibrant. It's a little more muted, but it's muted but brighter. So it works out because I really don't want his cape to be super bright. Like I want it to kind of still have feel of a muted color, right? This whole section of the cape, I kind of want to be, pretty bright. Right here. And now, let's see, just along here. Really, at this point, I'm just kind of holding him kind of at an angle where I feel like my work light is going to hit him the way that I'm envisioning the light hitting him. And that's how I'm choosing where to put some highlights with this particular color. And I feel like this side of the cape is a little more in shadow than the other, so I'm probably not going to mess with it as much. Okay, and almost done with this color. Well, I got to get the up here, so there is this right here. this collar is really just at the edge. And not even all the way around, just halfway around, because you won't see this highlight color in the back. I might just come down a little bit up here. I think that's looking pretty cool. Just try to gently get these ripples, wrinkles in the fabric, whatever you'd like to call them, highlighted. On the front again, because this is where, yeah, that's kind of a little bit sloppy. I think I was running out of paint there and just didn't want to stop. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix some of that brown leather strap there too. That's okay. All right, that's better. I'd say those highlights are done. And it is 4:50. And I haven't even gotten to the red stuff. Gosh. Well, though you can see the mud is actually dry now, and you can see that it does look wet, but it's completely dry. That's what I love about this stuff. All right. So we will do this. I think the highest highlight we're going to use for his clothing is going to be this right here, heraldic red. I'm not going to use the violet red in it because I used that on the bloody areas. And again, I don't want it to be too bright. I want it to be a little bit muted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my, if I can find my dragon red, wherever it is. It's over here somewhere, I promise. Where is it? Where is my dragon red? I just have so many bottles of paint on my desk at this point. Okay, here we go. Dragon red, which is the color that I base coated his clothing with. And now I'm going to use this and mix in some heraldic red for the mid-tone. And you can see that's still a pretty darn bright red. So this is going to be my mid-tone color. Get it mixed in really good. Clean that off just because it's paint everywhere. Okay, get a little bit of that. And another thing about these Reaper paints is they're much thinner than the Vallejo paints. So, and this here is the same technique as the midtones I did on his cape. I'm going to cover everything but the lowest possible points. So that really the heraldic red becomes the primary color of this piece of fabric. Well, you'll get a little bit of the dragon red peeking through in the shadows. You see already beginning to come together a little more. I am coming down pretty low on the sides there because again I want to get everything but the lowest points. And then I'll come in with just heraldic red later on after I finish up with this color and highlight with it. And there are also there's a little bit of this on the back too. Okay, so we've got, yeah, that part's done, and then we've got this on the back. So again, I'm going to treat this a little bit differently because I'm not going to have the brightest color. Back here. If I were going to do, I suppose I could do a mixture of, add a little more heraldic red into this mixture. Yeah, like another drop of it into the mixture just to have another mid-tone. Just because then it would be more like what I did with the cape. So you get a little more highlight up back here, but still have the variation. On the front and back. else did I get to? Okay, and that's here. I forgot. There's a little bit of it back there, so probably should hit that. Kind of. I'm gonna try not to get this red on my green. Other than that, I'm not going to worry about painting that part much at all. Okay. Oh. Kind of forgot it flipped over on itself like this. So do you think I want to come over here with this? Okay. All right. That's that. It is almost 5 o'clock, but I'm going to go ahead and do this these last couple of layers. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more heraldic red, about the same amount that I had before. We'll do another highlight. It's going to be a hair brighter, and then our next highlight will be straight up heraldic red. So. Same deal as before. We're just going to, dadgummit, we're just going to have Judd's hand slipping everywhere. I'm just kind of hitting a little bit higher spots than I did with the last mixture. A little bit more of the high spots, but still hitting mostly high spots, right? And it is fairly, and this color is going to be the highlight color in those darker areas. And see, we don't even really need a ton of it here. So we're going to go back and, oh gosh, that's a lot of paint. Okay. And now we're just going to try to hit highlights here. So this will be, yeah, just a little different from the front. You'll still have highlights, but they just won't be as bright as the highlights in the front. All right. And now, okay. So it'll take me just a few more minutes to do this one last highlight. Oh, come on, man. I will say I've had a lot of trouble with these Reaper bottles clogging, but I think it's because they're pretty old. Okay, just a tad bit of water. I don't know why I just said that. Actually, I hate when people say tad bit, because tad and bit mean the same thing. Alright, so now on the front here, we're going to look at the areas that are most struck by the light. See how much that stands out, but it still looks pretty natural. Can't find it. Got so much paint on this palette. Okay, and I'm going to give this just a little hit right there. I'm not going to do any of the rest of that with the brighter color. And that's it, man. Actually, let me go here. Actually, I think I forgot to do this side with the second mid-tone, but it's such a small area. I think we'll be all right. So we'll just hit that there, and then paint. That's not it. Let's see if I can. Ah! I got a spot of red on my green. I can fix it, but it's just annoying. It's annoying. They're just so close together, and I've got some green on the red right here, so I'll just fix that with this. So that has a little highlight on it too. Now I can just get some of my goblin green here and cover up that little red dot. Okay. And obviously I still have to do his clothes, but looks like everything's kind of locked up here, guys. I don't know what happened. Hope you can still hear me. Interesting. What is going on? My feed is apparently still working. Something's up with my phone camera. I think it died. Something's up with my overhead camera. Man. It looks like it didn't die. Looks like it was pretty recent. So maybe it'll kick back on here in a second. And we can call it a day. Looks like it just reconnected. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so there it is, looking pretty good. I'm going to do that same kind of highlight on the rest of his clothing. But it is now 5 o'clock. And maybe if I get a chance, I'll do a little extra time on this and share it with you. So now I got stuff in the way here. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. Hope it was fun for you. It's looking pretty darn good. He's looking pretty cool. Got to do a little bit of finishing stuff. Maybe I'll post a clip or something of me finishing it up. So you guys have a great Sunday night, and I will see you next Sunday. Don't forget to check out Shortlist Studios on YouTube. Visit patreon.com/shortliststudios to support the channel, and I will see you very soon. Take care.